Now, despite the loss of life with the outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria, some are calling it a blessing in disguise. Africans spend reportedly $40 billion every year on medical tourism, and that's mostly to India. But the lockdown on international flights has forced many to address their medical concerns right here in Nigeria. One hospital has made history, successfully completing a high-risk heart bypass surgery, showing the quality of healthcare available. Arise correspondent Adefemi Akinsanya was granted exclusive access to Reddington Hospital in Lagos during an open heart surgery. Let's take a look.
We feel that the future is bright.
Faces of victory. These doctors are part of the team who successfully completed the first complex open heart surgery at Reddington Hospital in Victoria Island. The life-saving 6-hour-long operation on a 66-year-old patient comprised 3 procedures in one. It was performed by Reddington's new tri-state cardiac program, proving that despite the popularity of medical tourism in Nigeria before the outbreak of COVID-19, there is undeniable talent in the healthcare at home.
One thing I'm particularly proud of is the fact that this was a completely 100% Nigerian team.
It's a surgery called coronary artery bypass grafting, where we take blood vessels from other parts of the body and use them to replace the blocked heart vessels.
So it really underscores the need for collaboration, and also to let Nigeria know that everything is here. So you don't need to be flying around, and then to even be able to do it in this saga of COVID-19, when nobody could go from even one state to another. I think it's quite very, incredible.
Before the end of the press conference, an emergency heart patient is brought into the hospital and rushed into theatre upstairs. We were able to follow the doctors to the intensive care unit, where the heart surgery was already underway.
And they have been having
Professor Kamar Adeleke left us to run into the adjoining room to direct the surgeons.
They call us right away. You can take a picture of the screen. Go ahead, have you done that? The stand there and then just deploy like that. That is perfect. Fantastic, excellent. Okay, so 55 years old, came in, with chest pain, and he was having a massive heart attack. So massive heart attack, and there are 3 major arteries that supply the heart, 2 to the left and 1 to the right. The most important artery that supplied the front of the heart was the one we suspected, and we brought him to the cath lab, and indeed, he had 100% blockage. So you can see this one that goes to the back of the heart, this one goes to the front. This one here is supposed to come all the way down like that. So you can see right here, it's 100% blocked off. And then we did the angioplasty, there's the same artery now. You can see now the blood flow. By this evening, patient is going to be able to walk around.
And that optimism grows when we're told we can meet the patient whose surgery brought us into Reddington Hospital in the first place. But before that happens, we're given personal protective equipment to wear before a single step can be taken towards the recovery ward. Well, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. We've been granted exclusive access into the ward where the recovery is ongoing. We've come here to speak to the surgeons behind this groundbreaking surgery, and we've now been afforded the opportunity to speak to the patient himself. We've been asked to sanitize our hands one more time, and then the moment arrives. We make the journey into the room. Inside is a quiet yet hearty Oluwatoyin Adebiyi. He's been through a marathon surgery. His heart was stopped while he was put on a heart-lung machine which pumped blood to the rest of his body. Surgeons then opened his heart to repair the affected valve. His 3 blocked arteries were then successfully bypassed, restoring normal blood flow. And after all of that, naturally, my first question to Oluwatoyin was a simple, how do you feel now?
I feel very great. And I thank God for giving me the opportunity to live. In fact, I would say I can't even remember how I get here. It's God's dream. is God's making. And he is the only one that knows the beginning from...
So take your time, so take your time. So.
Can you give me a pair of gloves, please?
Did you ever think that quality care would be better outside of Nigeria, and do you still feel that way now?
Honestly speaking, I didn't even believe there's anything like this that can happen in Nigeria. It's marvelous in my eyes. It's unbelievable.
As he rises to his feet to display his strength in recovery, he says a prayer for the doctors, nurses, and healthcare assistants who stood by him along his life-saving journey. Doctors say, as long as there is investment, support, and belief in Nigerian healthcare, Oluwatoyin's success story won't be unique. The resounding consensus here at Reddington Hospital is that home is definitely where the heart is. Adefemi Akinsanyo, Arise News, Lagos.
Congratulations. No.
That's
amazing.
A very touching human angle story there.
Absolutely amazing.
Well, but first, congratulations to the Reddington Hospital Group.
Yes.
And also congratulations to Professor Adeleke, who led the team of 19 Nigerian medical experts who have been able to perform this feat. We're told this is the very first of its type in Nigeria. And then congratulations to Mr. Olutoyin Adebiyi on his, achievement, surviving. I will wish him a quick recovery. But what this shows again is the point that we have always made, that look, Nigeria is very rich in human resource, in human capital, in every field possible.
Yeah.
I've had stories of persons who go abroad for medical tourism, only to return to say that either in Europe or in South Africa or any part of the world, you'll be surprised that some of the best hands in those places are Nigerians.
Yeah.
And the reason many of them relocate abroad to practice is because we do not have the facilities here in Nigeria. Now, what Reddington Hospital has done, it's private initiative.
Yes.
And that's why that hospital deserves special congratulations. However, we would like to see a center of excellence, centers of excellence of that time, also being established in Nigeria, particularly in the public health sector. Now, one of the fallouts of COVID-19 is how Nigerians now are compelled to appreciate what they have at home a little bit more. Ordinarily, Mr. Adebiyi will probably have traveled abroad, but he says he himself is shocked, he's surprised that we have the experts here, we have the facilities here. We need more centers of excellence like that, and we hope that beyond COVID-19, government at all levels, federal and state, we invest in the health sector.
Absolutely.
Because the great awakening is how critical the health sector is and how important healthcare workers are in our society.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, Doctor. This is such positive news to receive. The first successful open heart surgery that we know of to be conducted in Nigeria. And it's a team of doctors that were also all Nigerian. It just goes to show what you said about the fact that we have amazing, brilliant doctors, not just here, but all over the world. And what we need now is the right infrastructure to continue to support our doctors beyond the private sector and also into public healthcare. Now, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the extension by 2 weeks of phase 1 of the relaxation of the lockdown that he imposed on the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos and Ogun states to check the spread of COVID-19. Specifically, the nationwide curfew, the ban on interstate travel, and the lockdown of Kano State, which had emerged as the third epicenter of the pandemic, would continue until June 1st, according to the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who conveyed the presidential directive at the daily briefing of the task force yesterday in Abuja. Now, the president had, through a regulation signed on the 3rd of May pursuant to the Quarantine Act, eased the lockdown that he had imposed on March 30th in an effort to balance the requirements of public health safety and the need to safeguard the economy from total collapse. Mustafa said that Buhari granted the extension based on a recommendation of the task force. In the meantime, the virus increased the number of its victims by 216 yesterday, bringing the total number of infections in Nigeria to 6,175 confirmed, with 1,644 people discharged and unfortunately 191 dead. Announcing this last night, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control said that Lagos recorded 74 new cases, Katsina 33, Oyo 19, Kano 17, Edo 13, Zamfara 10, Ogun, Gombe and Borno 8 each, Bauchi and Kwara 7 each, the Federal Capital Territory 4, Kaduna and Enugu 3 each, while Rivers State has 2 cases. Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be back to discuss this.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Rotus Odiri with business updates. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Rotus. How are you?
Yeah, so the talk of the town, at least in the business community, is debt relief for African nations. Debt relief, not debt forgiveness, so they're still owing the money. But we have to give a lot of credit to Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, who back in, I believe, early March was calling for a number of Western nations to provide debt relief to African nations to give them some room to be able to fight COVID-19 because they need the money. They need the money really badly. And the G20 had agreed back in April that there would be some debt relief for African nations, but China was holding out. Up until yesterday, we carried the World Health Assembly, where China's Xi Jinping agreed to, well, first of all, he gave a lot of focus to Africa at the World Health Assembly. He talked about providing $2 billion in assistance for emerging market economies, of which a lot of African nations are part of. He talked about partnering with about 30 or so African nations, Chinese health facilities, partnering with them because he acknowledged that there were a lot of weak African health structures. And he also called on World Health Organization nations to give more assistance to Africa. And now, crucially, also, he talked, China, it looks like they've agreed to provide debt relief to up to about 150 billion in interest payments to African nations. If we look at, I believe they have a chart here where we look at the size of China-African loans between 2000 up until where we are in 2020. The annual loans that have been provided, yeah, there it is. They've been growing. Yeah. If you look at from 2000 all the way up until 2017, again, each bar is how much China has provided annually in loans to Africa. So it's in excess of the hundreds of billions. Also, there's an economist with Standard Chartered Bank. I think his name is Sarah Baton-Glenn. She also has a chart showing the multilateral versus Chinese loans that are owed by certain African nations. And okay, so Nigeria is Nigeria is under the blue arrow there. In green is the external debt that's owed to multilaterals. In blue is the debt owed to China. So we're okay, about 20% of our loans or so.
Zambia, Angola, on the other hand.
Thank you. So you can see, look at those large blue lines. So those countries, the ones with the blue lines that are really high, as you pointed out later, Djibouti, Angola, even Cameroon, Zambia, they owe China a lot of money. So they, in particular African nations, are very, very happy to hear that China will be considering it. China has said, though, this is going to be on a case-to-case basis. Our next chart, though, this is very key here. There's a difference between the percentage of external debt owed to China and the percentage that is debt service to China. So in green, you're going to look at the amount of debt, or rather, yeah, the green is the China's percentage of a country's debt, right? That's how much of your total debts you owe to China. In blue, though, is your percentage of external debt service. Your debt service is how much you pay in interest payments. So while some of these countries may not owe as much money to China as they do to multilateral agencies, the amount of money they pay in interest is higher because of the structure of the loans they set up with China, commercial loans. So they are more expensive. So this is very, very key here in regards to, like Nigeria, for instance, although, we don't owe that much to China. We spent about $1.2 billion between January and October of last year just in debt service. So it is very, very key that China has agreed to finally, although they say it's going to be on a case-by-case basis from May 1st till the end of 2020, to at least suspend some of these interest payments to these countries to give them some
We need this alleviation.
Badly. We really do. We really do.
China is Africa's largest bilateral creditor, up to the tune of about $152 billion. And consistently, China has been very reserved in joining the conversation around debt relief. And what is coming out of China now is to allow African countries to delay payments. China is not part of that conversation about debt forgiveness. No. And the question to ask is, why is this the case? Perhaps China itself at this time is vulnerable. The trade war between China and the United States is affecting the economy in China. And then secondly, there are also nationalistic sentiments inside China about how Africans have been behaving. They think that Africans are not grateful enough. many African countries have benefited from development financing under the Belt and Road Initiative of China. Now, what category of loans, of debt, are we talking about? Now, it's true that there's been some debt forgiveness from China with regard to zero interest loans. But what about the development loans, the concessional loans, which constitute the bulk of the debt, that Africa owes China? Now, we're not likely to see any kind of, concession in that regard. So these are some of the issues involved, but it would be nice to see if China will become part of the international conversation around debt relief.
Looks like the case.
Honestly. Reuters, thank you, though, for today's updates, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Right.
Moving on now for a more global business update, Michael Wilson joins us from London.
Let me recap on the Asian markets, first of all. So this news of a coronavirus vaccine by a company called Moderna has certainly helped boost those. It certainly did a lot for European stocks too, including London airline and travel stocks as well, doing particularly well. But it's obviously a long way to go. We, and I'm sure you, begin this very slow journey back to work. I was talking to somebody earlier today, an educational publisher called Pearson, and they've actually noted that many people have changed their kind of skill sets by availing themselves of new online educational resources to change their careers whilst they've been at home, not in the office, which is actually, I would have thought, quite interesting. So we may see quite a change in the way that people actually get back to work. As far as the crisis in Europe is concerned, here's a new one, a Corona bond, which is being touted by Germany and France. Now, the point about this is that this is not a loan to less and poor European countries. This is, in fact, a donation. It's a gift, and it's coming out of the EU budget. And this is going to be quite significant. A lot of the countries, through no fault of their own, have built up massive debts, including Italy, for example. GDP to debt to GDP ratio is going to be 160% by the end, by the way that whatever normality arrives. So these countries are going to benefit from that. But again, a lot of discussion to go along that way still. China, you were touching on that. Two things really. First of all, the NASDAQ in New York is saying that they are going to place restrictions on companies requiring IPOs in New York, Chinese companies. So that's number one. Secondly, Huawei is saying this morning that it's actually fighting for its life because, as I suggested last week, it feels as though it's being shut out of semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. China itself is urging its companies to come to London to list because it's reaching out to the rest of the world after the pandemic, or it hopes it will. In any case, so far, only one company has right now registered on the London Stock Exchange, but it hopes to be more. Just do very quickly before I go, if I may, we need to be talking, there's Moderna, we need to be talking about oil, in particular, enjoying a good run since it's felt that China's economy is actually improving. It's saying that demand out of China is approaching pre-pandemic levels. So that's actually quite significant. And as far as one other breaking story this morning, again, just before I go, it looks like the UK is engaging in a new tariff regime, which will make importing goods into the UK less expensive for non-EU countries. So that should be something that Africa will be looking at.
Michael,
well,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. And now for an update on COVID-19, Aaron Akerajala is here. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Leila. Good morning, Doctor. It's good to be here today.
We missed you yesterday.
That's true, actually. You weren't here yesterday, true.
All right. Now, looking at it, of course, there was the World Health Assembly was actually held yesterday, albeit virtually. And for the very first time, Chinese President Xi Jinping has actually come out to defend his country in the role they played in the whole COVID-19 saga. And once again, he's actually come out and defended, all right, the WHO's Director General, talking about Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, and the criticism that has actually been leveled against him and his organization by the US and several other countries who are calling for an independent investigation into this particular COVID-19 and how it actually spiraled out of control. But Xi Jinping has insisted that only investigations that is being done by the WHO will be agreed upon, and more importantly, is also pledged about $2 billion over the next 2 years, because as we look at the numbers right now, it stands at 4,805,544. That's the exact figures as we speak of this morning, with 318,596 deaths at the moment. And it's saying that in those 2 billion, developing countries will have a chunk of it. And it's also saying that Chinese hospitals will partner with 30 African hospitals in the bid to actually probably give them a little bit of soft landing there.
But I mean, if you have nothing to hide, what's the issue with an independent investigation? Certain countries would ask, and I think that's a valid question.
Well, I mean, China will be reluctant to agree to an investigation that will involve the Americans. It doesn't matter what President Xi Jinping may have said. The stigmatization of China in the United States and the skepticism of many members of the U.S. Congress is not likely to change in any way, because stigmatizing China has become part of the politics of presidential election 2020 in the United States.
Unfortunately. But Aaron, thank you.
Thank you very much
for today's update. See you tomorrow.